You are listening to Radio Ramadan 365 podcasts.
Chapter 23, The Reality Contained in Your Heart. I often hear from people saying, don't mention anything, you'll get nazar. My suspicion is that because there's a feeling of threat, there's a big universe out there, and poor me is having to defend myself. Most people often see themselves like this, but in this chapter you say that that's false. Firstly, how can we really experience that, and why do we most rarely do that?
You know, in our previous conversation, we spoke about the difficulty of being a person among people, or a self, or a nafs.
Yeah.
That creates the sense of vulnerability, because your personhood is all of this conditional motive, and where not one of those things do you manufacture inside your own skin. You have to get them from other than you. So it all conspires to you feeling really, really vulnerable. You know? And so it is true that most people, because they confuse the one who is seeing, that which is seeing, with the one who is seen, because they think it's the same thing. They constantly experience themselves as under threat and vulnerable and needy and unrequited and unfulfilled and insecure. And I mean, the list can go on and on and on, you know. Now, the problem with that is there's several problems with that. The first is that this inadequacy that you then experience, you kind of blame the world for. Because I mean, clearly, if what makes me happy is something that you've got, then you can withhold it, and therefore you can make me unhappy. So if I'm unhappy, this is your fault. You're not, you know. It creates, I blame. I mean, obviously I'll blame, because my unhappiness is the product of what I'm not getting from you. So this, you know, this is your issue. And also, therefore produces a kind of suspicion, you know. And the suspicion is that because I'm vulnerable to you, actually the world is out to get me. The world's a dangerous place. You know, both in terms of things that can be given that are not wanted, like an assault or a dreaded disease, or things that can be withheld that are wanted, like love or food or affection or whatever. You know. So I'm under threat because I have need of other. I'm under threat of, because I'm not just in need of what I'm getting from other. I'm in need of what the other should withhold from me. I mean, one of the things they should withhold from me is their violence. So I'm underneath both. I'm in need of them both in terms of what they give and what they withhold. You know, so. That means I'm constantly having to look out for number one. And if I'm constantly having to look out for number one, it means that I suspect that they're out to get me. This is you know, and if they're out to get me, it becomes supercharged when you introduce issues like nazar into this. Or because it's saying that actually there are dark forces behind this that are out to get me. You know, that's kind of, and because one can understand that how one can produce that life experience. If I'm feeling under threat all the time, I eventually start thinking that there's like, on the other side of my experience, there's a malevolence, there's an intelligent malevolence that's out that doesn't bode me well. You know, that has not got my good interest, my best interests at heart. It's trying to do me in. So, what's the other way of experiencing things? Well, if you start just getting a little bit of objectivity to your emotional motive. You step a little bit deeper in yourself, as we described before.
Mm.
Then, in the first instance, you start recognizing how many things keep on going right without you having to plan them. You know, that you start recognizing that, I mean, just this going right is in two senses. Eh? Going right is in that which is withheld and that which is granted, as we said before. So I just need to do this. There you go.
Mm.
If I'm a self, then I'm vulnerable not just on the basis of what you give me, but also what you can withhold from me. You know, so but actually, if you think about your relationship, not with other people, with individuals, but just pan back and look at your entire life. Let's have a look at what you've been given. Let's start off with what's been granted. The first thing is that, do you know an insulin-dependent diabetic? Well, most of us do. You don't know an insulin diabetic. I know insulin-dependent diabetics. This is a miserable condition. You know, people have to inject themselves.
That's right.
You know? I mean, this is a horrible condition. You imagine having to take your own blood. That was awful. I mean, the pain involved, all the time having to inject yourself every day just to stay alive. If you say, well, why is it, what goes wrong in people's physiology that produces this condition called insulin-dependent diabetes? Well, there's a tiny group of cells, it's smaller than your pinky nail, in your pancreas called the islands of Langerhans. Those things dysfunction, and you have this incredible problem of having to manage the prospect of having to stay alive. A person is insulin dependent. If they don't inject themselves like in time, they will die. It's as dramatic as that, you know? That's this tiny, 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 tiny part of you that misfunctions, you know? We think we can be in charge of our life, manage our lives. If you can't even manage your pancreas, how on earth do you propose to manage your life? I mean, your life is this continuous orchestration of things that without asking your permission, just continue going right, without requiring your intervention, you know, that keeps you alive.
Mm.
Talk about having your needs satisfied. And that's what's given. You know, everything, you might say, yeah, but I had to pay, I had to pay the baker for the bread roll that I ate that sustains me. Okay, so you paid the baker. But what about all the what went into making wheat? You know, the sunlight, the nutrients that got sucked out of the ground, the kind of what about the fact that your physiology is able to digest wheat? This side that also works. You know, all of this stuff. Do you mean the pound or so that you paid for that bread roll accounts for? Of course it doesn't. There's far more given than what you can ever repay. That's on the basis of what's given. You are the recipient of an incalculable body of blessings of what's been given.
Mm.
You're also the recipient of an incalculable number of catastrophes that have been withheld.
Mm.
How many things could conceivably kill you right now?
Any amount.
It's an infinite number. Literally,
Infinite.
it's an infinite number. I mean, because for you to stay alive requires things to be withheld from you, from microbes to meteors and anything in between. In fact, because there's an infinite number of things that could kill you in any moment that you're in, the fact that you aren't killed is stupendously miraculous.
Mm.
It is inconceivably unlikely that you should stay alive, moment to moment to moment. So not only are you the recipient of an immense boon given, you're the recipient of an incredible generosity or kindness that withholds this myriad of catastrophes from you. That's what it means to say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. We are the recipients of two mercies, that which was granted and that which is withheld. Now, that vast intelligence that withholds meteors from you and at the same time creates the chemistry for you to be able to turn a piece of bread into energy, and on the other side of the piece of bread have all of the things that have orchestrated, like the sunlight and the wheat and the genetics of the wheat and the farmer as well, all of that, so that both of these things can meet for you to have some energy. You want to say that I mean the extraordinary kind of intelligence of this. You want to say there's some kind of malevolent force that's somehow bigger than this. You know, that the world is out to get you. I mean, how's that even remotely sensible? You know, I mean, it's kind of like, so this idea of the universe being a dangerous place, that there's nazar, that there's these dark, malign forces, is actually shirk. It's actually doesn't recognize just how big the blessing is and how small the curse is.
Mm.
You know? I mean, we say that Allah is khairul makirin. He's the best of planners. So isn't the nazar then contained within the plan, smaller than the plan, subject to the plan? So who's the creator?
Say the last bit. Allah is what?
I mean, if we say that Allah is the khairul makirin, the best of planners, right? Yeah. If we truly convinced about that, it has to mean that anything that doesn't quite suit us, that is him giving us. It's us dealing with him. It's not dealing with some malevolent little imp that's sitting on the other side of your rose bush throwing a curse at you. I mean, how's that? I mean, that's silly. You know. So it's an immense source of frustration for me personally, actually. In the role that I have, people very often come to me and think I've got some magical cure for things associated with the unseen. You know, that for jaddu and I mean, it's like, who's your Rabb? You know, how can this element be in any size comparable to the immense blessing you already have? Just because you're alive, never mind anything else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if the one who makes the whole thing work, is kind of like, is not enough of a protector for you, then heaven knows what is. I mean, but just the final thing I want to say about this, and then I'll get off my soapbox because I'm wittering on about this. When I'm convinced I'm a person, when I'm convinced I'm a self, a person among people, I will have this experience that the universe is a dangerous place. That experience is false. It is a lie. The universe is not a dangerous place. The universe is being governed by a Rabb, a custodial, caring, loving Lord. It is in the embrace of the Rabb, as is your life. You know, if that weren't the case, you couldn't be here, just logically. But in order to have that experience, you've got to start stepping back from your individual negotiations of the world that keep you trapped in the drama, step it back deeper, but deeper into yourself, so that you can recognize just how extraordinarily your life works beyond your ability to plan. that things come to you from left field, that you get provided for from in ways that you can't even begin to calculate. And that's in any case the truth. Yeah.
It's incredible. You talk also about the 5 prayers at the start of the inner journey. What about those that you don't do, but are good people?
Remember, those people who don't do it, but are good
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
You see, the inner journey is not necessarily the same thing as being a good person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could be a very good person and pay all my dues and never try and harm anybody and, do everything that is expected of me. In that sense, good. You know, I don't steal from my neighbor. I make sure that if the shopkeeper overchanges me, I return the money. When my child comes back from the store with a chocolate that he didn't pay for, I will take the child to the store and insist that the child apologizes to the shopkeeper. I do all of the good things.
Mm.
Do all of the good things.
Yeah.
But I'm still negotiating with the world the prospect of being a good person. I'm trying to pay my dues. The inner journey starts once you recognize that your dues aren't payable. There's something beyond being a good person here. Because the blessing that you receive on an ongoing basis is so immensely overwhelming. It is so vast, you could never repay it.
Mm.
You know? So that what is required for the inner journey to happen is that you actually you disengage the seer from the one who's acting, the person who's trying to do all this good stuff. Now that doesn't mean to say it gives you a license to do bad stuff. I mean, I'm not suggesting that, but what I'm saying is that you could do all the right things and still have a miserable life experience. Because you are still basically mincing your way through trying to have the right trades with other than you all the time. You know, your life experience only becomes fulfilling once you recognize that the one who needs is not the one who's watching. The seer, that which sits deeper than your personhood, that's always in the presence of the Rab. That's always ecstatic, irrespective of what gets done to you and what you do. That's why you can have somebody who's actually got a very deep spiritual life, and I know people who are like this, very deep spiritual life, and you cannot challenge the veracity of his life of his gravitas, and at the same time, actually sometimes behaves like quite a hooligan. You know, so how's this? I mean, you're supposed to be this angelic person, but that's this being the one who is submitted, being the one who's close to the Rabb, isn't necessarily the same thing as being the one who always does that which other people find acceptable. Who's in that sense a good person. That's how it
Okay,
is.
how does foregoing our outer aspirations or having delayed gratification help our spiritual growth?
So we probably have spoken about this before, but this relates to the issue of inward and outward gatheredness.
Got you.
If I want something from you, your ability to withhold what I want gives you power over me. I'm literally trying to step into the world, reaching into the window of perception, trying to get from other what I want. That is then coterminous with suffering.
Mm.
When I forego the outcome I'm trying to manage,
Mhm.
I'm no longer hooked by the other. I'm no longer outwardly gathered. I become inwardly gathered. And the other loses its hold over me. So my ability to suspend my desire for an outcome creates the condition where I'm no longer outwardly gathered. I become inwardly gathered. It develops inward gatheredness.
Right. Fantastic, Shusaf. Thank you very much. And that's the conclusion of chapter 23.
Thank you.